What's up, guys? This is Brave, and I'm back with another review of Ready to Love. This is season 4, episode 12, and the episode is titled, I Choose You. Now, let me go ahead and be honest. I have had a lot going on in my life, so therefore this review is a bit late, but let's just go ahead and jump right into it because I will be on time for the reunion. So let's get into this. So we actually don't meet up with Tommy first because that's what usually happens because he already told them on the last episode that they're going to meet the families. So we start off with Vernisha and her family. She actually had her oldest daughter there, which I felt was actually very appropriate because she doesn't need to have her youngest kids there unless this relationship got serious to me. But her oldest child is already, I think, 18, so I completely understand. So she has her there and 2 other people so that they can meet Joel. First thing that I noticed was Joel's outfit. What the hell was that, guys? I really need to know what is going on with this man's style. But besides that, I will say that his meeting with her family, it went quite well because they were asking him questions based on the fact that he has children as well as she has children. So how would that actually work out? Because I believe that her daughter asked him, how would you feel coming in as a father figure to 3 more children? Even her, I think it was her stepdad. Yeah, her stepdad. He was asking him about, well, she already has kids and you already have kids. How will that blending work? It was more so about how can they move as a family units if they do get together, because it's not just Joel and Vernisha in a relationship. You have children involved, and that's a lot more pressure. Especially the fact that her dad had asked him, are your kids ready for you to meet somebody new? And Joel's like, yeah, I just think that when the time's right, then he will introduce someone to his children, which is completely understandable considering that they lost their mother. Now, let's go ahead and hop on to the next date because, I feel like that's all that happened with Vernisha and Joel was the fact that they got along, her family liked him. Great. Now, let's get on to Liz and Jason. Jason is actually meeting Liz's family, and, okay, when he first walked in, right, he's like, saying hello to everybody. Then he's like, have y'all already blessed the food? Let's go ahead and say grace. I said, you better put on your Christian hat real thick for her Christian family. I see you, Jason. I see what you're doing. Because in no other situation have we ever seen Jason lead like this. But okay, let's just rock with it. Because then her family asked him, what's your favorite Bible scripture or whatever? Baby boy didn't hit him with 1. He actually had 2. I said, okay, Jason, you better do your homework in preparation for meeting Liz's family. And once he went on ahead and explained what his scriptures that he loved were, her family really did like him. And it made Liz happy that they liked him. And I was like, look at Liz. She has been smiling this whole time that she's been at this table with this man. So honestly, that was pretty much the end of their little meeting because the family liked him. He felt comfortable with her family and she was super excited that her family liked him. Great. Let's go ahead and move on to Chris and Amber. They're meeting Chris's brothers. And first of all, I realized that his daddy name must have started with a K because both his brothers' name also started with a K. And his brothers tried to have some serious questions for Amber. Because one of the brothers was straight out the gate so you got all this going for yourself. How come you ain't got no man? That's basically what he was asking her. And, she tried to have a little rebuttal as to what he was saying. Because I think her response was why haven't I let these guys come into my life or something like that? So basically, his family just wanted to make sure that what they have on this show is real. Because, as we all know, they feel like he got played last season when it came to him and Nia. Now, one thing that bothered me, not even bothered me, what kind of just stood out to me was the fact that you have Amber sitting up here talking about some, you'll know with my actions and everything that I'm really real, I'm really all for Chris and all this stuff. And I'm just like, but girl, when they rewatch this show, when it airs, I think they're going to be giving you a side eye because that whole Ron situation is still a bit iffy to me. I don't care what Amber was talking about. There are some things that happen that I feel like is not truthful. Also, the fact that she's like, she's very honest, and her and Chris, they were, pillow talking and telling each other everything. No, you weren't, because you were never going to tell him about you kissing Ron, because first of all, Ron was no longer on the show. Secondly, you already knew that if Alexis didn't bring it up, you were not going to bring that up to that man. Stop lying. But other than that, their little date went well, meeting his family, because as we know, Chris is already head over heels for Amber, and anything that she does is right in his eyes. All right, let's hop on over to Kyra and AJ. They are actually meeting up with Kyra's family. So you have AJ, he seems very calm and collected as far as when they were asking him questions. He was pretty honest in his answers to me. One thing that actually stood out to me, though, was the fact that he felt like he was being interrogated. Yes, his words, not mine. And I'm just like, well, the whole point was for their families to get a better understanding of who you are. So, of course, they're going to be asking you questions. And considering she comes from the background that she has, yeah, you should have already known that the questions were going to, come at you fast, and they want answers right then and there. Now, when it came to one question that her mom, I believe, asked was like, oh, so where do you see you guys moving forward, after this process is over? Like, what's y'all next step? And he did not have an answer for that. He had no clue. He did not give an answer. So at that point, you have Kyra, she's feeling some type of way, like, what do you mean you don't know? And I mean, I think that he could have said something along the lines of, throughout this process, we've been getting to know each other, but we were also able to get to know other people. And now that we've chosen each other, I just want us to have a deeper connection, or for us to explore each other's interests. Like, he could have said something, but he didn't. Now, I will say that I also like the fact that her sister kind of pointed out, like, I don't know if you guys are actually ready to be in, a fully committed relationship, because I feel like y'all are both still presenting each other with your representatives and not your true self. Now, I think that is absolutely true, and that is true across the board when it comes to this show, because think about it. All these people, they date, and I mean, not even just this season, I mean this season as well as previous seasons. They date for 6 weeks. Everything's going okay. By the time we get to the reunion show, everybody broken up, because now there's no cameras rolling. It's just you and that person, and y'all are trying to make something work when y'all really don't know each other. Y'all really don't know that much about each other, but y'all about to pretend like y'all about to really commit into this relationship, and then you realize we're not a match. So that pretty much sums up their date. And let's just go ahead and move on to the next date, because they actually aired 2 of them together, and I hate when this show does that, because we have Vernisha meeting Joel's people as well as Chris meeting Amber's people. Let's just go ahead and start off with Chris and Amber. So first of all, you have Amber's family asking him how many serious relationships he's been in, and he says 4. They don't believe him. And next thing you know, one of them is like, well, she just works so hard and she does so much of her work. How are you going to bring her back to self-care? And he's like, well, you know what? I'm just going to make sure she don't work herself to the bone and all this stuff. And I'm just like, okay, great. He's giving great answers. We already know that he's infatuated with Amber at this point. My only thing is, it's interesting that her family asked about how he can help her get back to self-care, how many relationships he's been in. But I just feel like they were asking stuff that it didn't really matter. I mean, I understand the whole getting her back to not being a workaholic, but at the same time, I'm just like, okay, but what else is he bringing to the table? I need something more out of this, because it just seems like a bunch of, let's just go ahead and make it to the finish line when it comes to Amber and Chris. Ever since last week, I have not been feeling them as a couple. No. when we found all that stuff out about Ron. That's when I wasn't feeling Amber. But last week I was not feeling them as a couple because they're not on the same playing field. They don't even have the same beliefs at this point. She wants to be married and have one child. He don't want to be married and have multiple children. It's not aligning. It's not. So let's just go ahead and move on from them because her family seemed to like him. Great for him. Now let's move on to Joelle and Vernisha. We actually ended up meeting, what was their name? BB and Butter. Those are his sister and his niece. And of course, they're asking Vernisha, like, oh, so you have 3 kids, with his 2, that'll be 5. Like, wouldn't that be like a lot or whatever? And Vernisha's like, well, I have one who's in college already. And as far as raising other people's kids, I've done that before. So that's not a problem. I mean, even after, some relationships didn't work out, I've always still had a relationship with the kids. And I'm like, I actually do respect that because a lot of times when you already have kids and you decide to go ahead, step out and start dating, the kids get attached to that person as well, especially if you guys spend, a lot of family time together. So that is good that she tries to, keep up a good rapport with the children. So basically their conversation, it goes well. However, when Vernisha leaves or whatever, Joelle asks, like, okay, so what do y'all think? And I think it was BB who's like, well, she's basically a nice woman, but I feel like she likes you way too much. I don't understand how they got that vibe from her because she actually shows interest in him and wouldn't mind stepping up to help him with his kids. Is that the problem? I need to know what all was said in this conversation for these people to say this, unless he already had a conversation with them privy to this conversation about him feeling like she was some type of clingy. All right, so that was pretty much that day. Let's go ahead and move on. So we next see Liz. She is meeting up with Jason's mom. And of course, he's in the confessional saying how, it's pretty much a big deal that someone's going to be meeting his mom and how his mom can always sniff out the BS. So his mom actually ended up asking Liz about finances. And I don't know where she was going with that question because when we saw Liz's answer, she was saying something along the lines of, I've been afforded the chance to, go to private schools and, pretty much live probably a middle class life. But at the same time, she also knows what it's like to not have certain things. So, Liz has had like a great balance when it comes to finances. I guess that's what she used to get information out of. Like, I want to know what the exact question was that she asked, because to get that answer, I didn't really get it. But let's just go ahead and move on. So then when we saw her again, she ended up asking Liz, like, oh, well, do you think that you know how to lead him without him knowing that he's being led? And one thing that stood out was the fact that Jason was like, most of the time, we don't get it right on the first time. And I'm just like, yeah, I don't even know where his mom's questions were going, honestly. So Liz did answer, and she said that with God and prayer, he's going to lead her to whatever the right answer is, to lead him. And because he's a unique individual, all this stuff. And I'm just like, again, what are these answers and these questions? And I honestly feel like Liz was answering the questions to the best of her ability. There's nothing wrong with her answers. I just feel like the way that Jason's mom was asking these questions were very weird to me. But that may just be me. So one thing that I found interesting is the fact that once, their conversation was almost to the end, you have Jason asking his mom, like, do I have your blessings to date Liz? I find that to be interesting because he didn't ask her family if, he had their blessing to date Liz. And also, I'm just like, nobody else has done that. Whatever, Jason, we're just going to let you do you. So let's just go ahead and move on over to AJ and Kyra, because AJ is introducing Kyra to his mom. And his mom seems to be very headstrong. And honestly, she seems like she's one of the only people that calls her person out on a BS. Because I feel like a lot of the other castmates, they brought people on this show that were not very honest. I feel like Kyra's people were honest. And I definitely feel like, what's his name? Chris's people, his brothers were honest. And AJ's mom. Because she just, expressed a lot of how she feels about who her son is and even how he has some behaviors that she doesn't even agree with. So when they first meet or whatever, you have his mom going on about how, her son is 38 years old and he has yet to have any children. I said, ma'am, that's the first thing you're going to bring up? Okay. So then the next time that we see her, she talks about how, AJ has a tendency to pick up things and then sometimes he'll just drop them, basically. Because she's like, he taught himself how to play the piano and create his own music and all this stuff. And sometimes he'll engage in things and then he'll disengage. So I'm not sure if him dating you, basically, is this him really trying to focus on having a relationship? Or is this just him kind of trying to get by and try some new things out? Only time will tell. So then you have Kyra basically answering by saying that, they have had conflict before, but now they're trying to, figure out how they can work things out together. And they're willing to try that. So his mom ends up saying, so what were the issues that you guys had before? Because clearly she did not know anything about them going on this date way back in the day. So Kyra has to say, we went out a couple of times before, and at the end of the day, I had to pay for the date. That right there was red flag from his mama. And she's like, see, that right there wouldn't even fly with me. So his mom understands why Kyra was very cautious of AJ yet again, because he already messed up before. Do you give somebody a second chance to see if they can, fix the problem? Or do you just completely stop messing with that person altogether? So overall, his mom ended up liking her, and that pretty much wrapped up everyone meeting with the families. Great. Let's go ahead and get to these. Let me go ahead and choose you for the moment, but we'll see if they're together by the time the reunion comes around. Let's go ahead and talk about that. So we have Bernicia and Joelle. First of all, again, what does Joelle have on? That outfit was trash. I can't unsee it, and it's bothering my spirit. But anyways, both of them decide to commit to each other. Great. Let's see if they are still together. As far as Chris and Amber go, they decide, of course, to commit to each other. Great. Liz and Jason, we already knew they were going to commit to each other. Here's the thing. With these three couples, I will say this, that when it comes to consistency overall, Bernicia and Joelle have been pretty consistent this entire season. When it comes to Amber and Chris, they've been paired up this entire time, except for the fact that she has dated other people. I don't believe that Chris has. And then when it comes to Jason and Liz, he's made his decision, and I feel like, I'm just glad that Liz is happy. As long as Liz is happy, that's all that matters. If she's happy with Jason, go ahead. Now, I really want to know how she's going to feel about things after she sees how things kind of played out in these last couple of episodes when it came to Kyra. But, we'll see what happens with the reunion. But also, now that I think about it, the reunion was probably already filmed before she even got to see those last episodes. So, again, we'll just have to check out the reunion. Oh, I forgot. I didn't mention Kyra and AJ. Oh, yeah, that's because AJ chose Kyra, but Kyra did not choose AJ. AJ, I feel bad for him in the moment. But at the same time, this was not Kyra saying, I don't ever want to date you. What Kyra was saying was, throughout this process, yes, we have been interested in each other for 6 weeks, but I just want us to get to know each other a little bit better before we make a full commitment. I don't knock her for that decision. And let me tell you why. Because like I said earlier, there have been too many times on this show where people decide, oh, we're going to commit to each other. We're going to be together. And then by the time the reunion comes, they're not together. So I don't hate the fact that she decided to tell him, hey, I like you, I really do. Let's just take our time to get to know each other. Because who's to say by the time the reunion comes, they may actually be together and a couple of the other couples won't be together. So we shall see. Overall this season, I would have to say that I just wish that the variety of people on the show would, one, be more open-minded as far as they'll give everybody a shot as far as dating around. I hate that some people get pigeonholed into, I choose that person. That's the only person that I want to see. That is crazy to me. You have to move around. But also, I wish that nobody would go home on like the first 2 episodes, because these people, you don't really get a feel of them until they get a bit more comfortable, especially in front of a camera. But yeah, that was pretty much the show. Let me know what you guys thought about this episode. Go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. I will talk to you guys in the next one. And yes, I will definitely be back for the reunion, because that's where all the juiciness is. So, on that note, bye guys.